There, coaches, welcome. Welcome back to part two, the technical development of U8 and U10. This is part of ECSC's Grassroots coaching series. My name is Coach Mike. I am the Executive Director of Operations here at ECSC. And I won't bore you with the background. We'll just say that I've done extensive research and have a lot of experience in what we're about to talk about today. Let's talk about first the introduction to a technical development program. The idea, of course, is to continue to make soccer fun. We want them to fall in love with the game. We want them to develop as technical players on and off the field and also develop confidence, not only as a player, but also as a person. How do we do that? Well, a lot of that is coach's attitude. We'll kind of talk about that as the program goes on, but session design is also a very critical way. We need to design our sessions that bring out the potential of every player and every child. After all, we want the players to love the game, and we also want them to love to learn to play the game. So let's build players who love the game as much as they want to learn the game. Kind of tongue twister, but makes sense, right? The tagline at the bottom of the slide is really important. I don't want to skip over that. So building skillful, confident, and creative players. This does not mean that every player is going to develop into the next Kelly O'Hara or Lionel Messi. What this means is we want the players to enjoy playing the game, we want them to learn the game, and we want them to be confident while they're playing the game. Statistics kind of show that usually after the age of 10, 11, uh, the amount of players that continue on in the sport drop dramatically, only 50% in some ways. So you are the key, and we as a sport are the key for keeping kids engaged and keeping this positive activity available for them. Let's talk about the development stages, and it really kind of goes in ages. So, the idea of technique before tactics is essential for the first build of your skills. And then we're going to apply what we've learned to tactics later on in their journey. How do we develop those skills such as passing, dribbling, and shooting? These are building blocks for the players to learn now and refine, continue on through their entire career playing the sport. Remember, it's not just about individual skills, it's about encouraging teamwork and communication, but through small sided games is also equally important. These games kind of simulate real match situations, but allow them to explore in a supportive environment. It's crucial to match activities to the maturity level and also their age. I don't want to dismiss that. So from U6 to U15, each stage has its own physical, social, and technical needs. A 6-year-old's development is vastly different from that of a 15-year-old, for example. Patience, praise, and the purpose are key at every stage. Communicate with the parents. Let them know what you're teaching, why you're teaching it, and what that next step is, whether it's this season or next season. By understanding these development stages, we can tailor our coaching and bring out the best in each player and each team. But let's always keep in mind the importance of nurturing their love for the game while they learn. What are some of the technical cores? Well, ball mastery, dribbling with the inside, outside of your foot, when to turn, when to go straight, change of speed, change of direction, the ability to pass and receive the ball effectively. And I'm not just talking about kicking it in a straight line, I'm talking about how to open up passing lanes, how to see the vision of the field, how to shoot. We always talk as coaches, no toe balls, kick with your laces, kick with your laces. But why? Why is that? We'll talk about that a little bit further in the next couple minutes here. But also defending. Reflect on yourself as a coach. If this is your first season, reflect on how you would teach. But, if you've coached a couple seasons already, have you actually taught your players a proper defensive position? Maybe you've kind of taught them where to be, maybe, but have you actually taught them how to contain versus challenge and when to do that and how to do that? Think about some of those things. Let's take a look at ball mastery. We're going to dive into the power of 1v1s and how they can unleash creativity and the skill in our players. 1v1s or one-on-ones are fantastic for opportunities for players to develop their touches and express their creativity around the ball. We can use engaging games like Treasure Hunt, Sharks and Minnows, and King of the Ring to make this learning process exciting, fun, and dynamic. These games not only enhance skill, but they also make practice sessions really fun and very enjoyable. But remember, it's always important to offer the encouraging feedback as we're doing this. Phrases like great control, keep it close, nice touches, stay balanced. These are all really important things to affirm their efforts and boost their confidence. Of course, encouraging creativity is about more than just skill. It's about fostering an environment where players feel free to explore and make mistakes. Phrases like great idea, keep trying, hey, way to stay calm under pressure, take a look next time. These can make all the difference in supporting their growth versus stunting it. By incorporating these techniques and feedback, we can build players who are not only skilled on the ball, but also very confident in their play. Let's take a look at some photos. So these are all very specific to a couple different items that we were just talking about. The photo on the upper left, it's the player in the light blue shirt. She's got great control of the ball. She's looking to change speed and change direction. The two boys in the middle, dark blue and light blue, are both challenging for the ball. Dark blue has his foot on the outside of the ball, looking to cut back and make the move towards the inside. This is confidence. Likewise, the defender is also going for the ball, and it looks like from this photo he might have the advantage. But how confident are you as a player to be able to dive into a tackle like that? We'll kind of talk about that in the next few minutes too. And last but not least, in the upper right corner, we have a player in yellow. She's obviously got space on the field. She elects to take the space. She doesn't really have a passing lane open very well. So she's going to take the space and she's confident to be able to take it. Let's talk about passing and receiving. First we want to encourage our players to use the width and the depth of the field. This means spreading out. And you want to stretch the field as much as you can, which opens more opportunities for passing. We do not want to see bumblebee soccer or bunch ball, right? We've already talked about that many, many times, and it's a chronic issue in youth sports, especially at the grassroots level. But maintaining triangles and diamonds is key. This ensures that the player with the ball has at least two passing options. It's about giving them the choices and making their game more dynamic by allowing them to make that decision. Movement on the field by all of the other players should be purposeful. Players should either check back to the ball and provide support or move and create space for others. This constant rebalancing of shape keeps the team connected, but also is a very big challenge when coaching. Encourage your players to scan the field pretty often. Before receiving, while moving, and after receiving the pass, this helps them stay say this again. This helps them stay aware of their surroundings and make smarter plays. Playing half turned allows players to see the field better and make quicker decisions. So let's talk about the concept of half turned. By the way, if you haven't noticed already, some of this is actually scripted that I've actually written out before, and some of this we're just winging it. So half turned. If I'm a position, if I'm in a midfielder position, say I'm a left midfielder, okay, and the space is very small, I'm going to come all the way out to the sideline. My left defender has the ball. I'm going to head out to the sideline. Why? To create open space. I'm going to call for the ball, but my back is actually going to be turned towards the sideline or the touch line. That allows me to see 180 degrees of the field. I can see what's in front of me. I can see what's next to me. What I can't see is the parents on the sideline. Big deal. But it allows the players to see a large field of vision and make the decision, and also allow them to have more time because they can see any incoming attacks. But lastly, let's focus on angles, timing, and vision. Encourage diagonal movements to support the play. Remind players that timing is essential. Arriving as the ball arrives is absolutely perfect. Too early or too late can be costly and could be a turnover. Keep their heads up and anticipate space rather than just reacting. As a coach, using small sided games such as rondos or positional games can reinforce these habits effectively. The other part of this that we need to emphasize is sometimes you're not passing to the player's feet. You're passing to the open space and allowing the players to run onto the ball. There's obviously practical situations where that's far more encouraged. Let's talk about shooting. How do we shoot and finish? Well, as players begin to make some quicker decisions on the field, they'll start noticing the patterns that start to emerge, both offensively and defensively too. This is an exciting point in the coaching journey because now it's all starting to click, right? Your team's actually starting to get it. It's a lot of fun. These patterns can be game changers, especially on defense, where exploiting the attack can open up to vital shooting lanes and challenge your players to actively study the field of play. Find those passing lanes, cut them down. Find the shooting lane, jump in front of it. Encourage them to focus on making the best decision when it comes to shooting. Now let's talk about shooting and finishing, emphasizing the importance of body position. So, big steps. Keep the head down, eyes on the ball, and make sure the non kicking foot is right beside it. In other words, your plant foot. Follow through should get to the target point. So, I always talk to my guys about their hips. Where we want to shoot the ball is going to be square to our hips. Otherwise, we're going to be shooting exactly where our hips are pointed. So if you're doing this funny little, top of the penalty area, you go to take a shot, your hips are not orientated towards the goal and square to the posts, well, all bets are off. It could go just about anywhere, including the corner flag. So it's all about precision, making sure your hips are square, your head is down at the ball, and your plant foot is right in the perfect spot. We want to strike the ball just about in the middle or the bottom half for accuracy and lift. Remember, balance and control are going to be key. Wild swings rarely lead to good contact. Use slow motion demos to highlight clean shooting techniques. Finally, allow players to explore different ways to beat defenders. Let them make their own choices, shoot, pass, dribble, and reflect on those decisions after. We talk about the ball hog. It's in basketball, it's in football, it's in soccer, it's in hockey. The ball hog, I guess it would be a puck hog at that point. These are players that will not give up the ball. They want to dribble through everybody, they want to shoot and score, and they want to make the ESPN highlight reel. Encourage them to do that. Go ahead. If they think they're going to get, a clear lane and get a couple shots off, let them do it. Until all of a sudden it kind of goes into their mind that says, well, that's not working. And it didn't work a second time. And it didn't work a third time. What we're going to start seeing out of that player is frustration. But as a coach, you've allowed them to make their own decisions and explore. It's all about experimentation. On the converse side, if you were to now take a look at the success of that player inside the penalty area, well, they're probably not shooting very fast. As soon as that shooting lane comes, well, they're trying to dribble through it. They're setting up their perfect shot on their right foot because guess what? They haven't been able to use their left. And why haven't they used their left? Because of coaching. They were not taught proper techniques and fundamentals. Remember, technique over tactics. So let's build these skills and watch them grow into confident decision makers on and off the field. Let's take a look at the anatomy of what your body would look like as you're shooting and finishing. Well, this is a good one. Head is down at the ball. Your plant foot is directly beside the ball. Your ankle is completely locked, and your head is almost directly over the top of the ball, which means your center of gravity is over the ball. As you strike the ball, you're going to follow through and you're going to land on the kicking foot. Why do we do that? Because we're keeping our body momentum shifting forward. If we were to just to strike the ball and stop flat footed, we're not really going to get anywhere. It's not really going to go very far. If we allow all of our momentum to continue on going through the ball, the power on that shot is going to be critical. But I want to stress one very specific thing. Stop and think about how many times shooting with your laces is going to allow you to place the ball accurately. It can, don't get me wrong. With a lot of time and a lot of effort at an older age group, players can properly strike the ball with accuracy with their laces and combine power and accuracy together. But look at some of the best prolific goal scorers in the world. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Look at Messi. Look at Christian Pulisic, for example. Do they pound the ball home with laces every single time? Nope. They look for open holes in the net. They look where the keeper's feet are going and where they're leaning, and they kick it against the grain. But I think more importantly, they're passing the ball to these open spots. They're not trying to drive it home for a 85-mile-an-hour fastball in the upper 90. They're just placing it in an open corner of the goal. Encourage your players to do the same. The goals don't need to look beautiful. The point is the ball just needs to get across the goal line, right? That's the purpose of goaling. All right, let's dive into defending. And I say dive into because we're going to talk about diving. So defenders attack by winning the ball back quickly and safely. The goal is to pressure an opponent so that they make mistakes, allowing you to intercept or tackle the ball. Good defense attacking means being proactive, stepping in decisively, but only when the moment is right. How do we challenge versus contain? How do we do that? Well, challenging is stepping in and winning the ball when you're close, balanced, and you're confident that you'll succeed. Containing, and we'll talk about the surfboard approach in a second here, is staying in front of the attacker, slowing them down, and guiding them away from danger when a tackle would be very risky. Grassroots players learn to be patient and contain, and when to commit. The angles, timing, and vision are also extremely critical in your decision to contain or challenge. Approach the attacker diagonally, forcing them towards weaker areas, such as the sideline or perhaps even their weak foot. Don't rush, wait for a heavy touch of the attacker or for the attacker to lose balance before challenging for the ball. Keep your head up to see the ball, the attacker, the teammates, and the space so you can decide whether to delay, step in, or direct the play. I also want to add something on this very specifically. Defending is 50% technique in the decision whether to challenge or contain. It's also 50% using the communication that you've obtained around you. That could be verbal, that could be visual, that could be an audio signal somewhere, somehow. And that could be from your team, it could be from the opposite team. Imagine if you're the defender, there's a person coming out in a clear cut breakaway. Well, you need to make a decision very quickly. They're coming in with speed on their dominant foot. You know this goal scorer is definitely going to take one and crash it right into the back of the net. What are you supposed to do as a defender? Well, first, we want to eliminate a shot on goal, right? Second, we want to recover the ball. And third, we want to distribute that ball and keep possession in our own half and our own field and build from the back and a transition and a counterattack. Well, the odds are kind of against you, right? One on one. What happens if you had a defender behind you as well? That is the communication that you need because your back's probably going to be towards your goal. You can't necessarily see behind you. Maybe that one on one is actually a one on two, but you make a mistake, you challenge instead of containing, and you dive in. And that defender ends up beating you or that attacker ends up beating you one on one. Well, now they're into goal one on one. So, using the context around you, using the information from your team and around the field also makes you a very successful defender and helps with that idea of when to dive or challenge and when to contain. So, let's talk about that surfboard approach versus the challenge defending idea. So, surfboard defending is kind of just that. Your center of gravity is low to the ground. You have one foot in front of the other on the balls of your feet, and you use your feet as pivot points. You watch the ball, but you also watch the hips of the defender and figure out which way they're going to go. You're probably thinking, well, this is way too advanced for a 6 and 7 year old. But what happens if in one of those practices you teach the surfboard? What happens if you call it the surfboard? Hey, everybody, we're going to defend like we're on our surfboards. Everybody get on your surfboards. And you teach the concept. Now, what happens in a match when that defender is out there trying to figure out whether they're going to challenge and contain? What if you, as the coach, yell out, hey, Tommy, remember, use your surfboard? That player is instantly going to remember, I know exactly what my surfboard is. I know what I'm supposed to do. You're already giving them the information to win that matchup when you didn't even realize it. Let's talk about the challenge defending. Challenge defending is I'm going to dive in with my hips. I'm going to dive in with my leg and my toe. I'm going to win the ball at all costs. Sometimes you have to have a challenge defending mentality. But the idea of grassroots, and especially at U8 and U10, is not necessarily perfecting these approaches. It's allowing the players to learn when to use each approach and how to use each approach. Let's talk about transitional moments. So I'm going to keep this very high level. Of course, in the older age groups, we get far more interested in how this works. But essentially, there's four movements within a game. You're either attacking with possession of the ball, you're transitioning to defending because you've turned the ball over and therefore you're now defending, or you've won the ball back and now you're transitioning to attack and now you're back attacking. Well, a transition moment happens with an instant possession change when one team wins or loses the ball. These are some of the most exciting and chaotic moments in the game, and personally, my favorite. But both teams quickly shift from attacking or defending to attacking. But an ECSC grassroots methodology, helping players recognize and how to react during these moments, builds awareness, teamwork, and game understanding. I'll mention it real quick, and I'm not going to get a whole lot into it, but remember the 5-second rule. Okay, say I'm an attacker. I'm going down the side of the field. I completely lose the ball. Okay, I turn it over, take a heavy touch. The defender's got the ball. I now have 5 seconds to get back in front of that ball and try and prevent a quick counterattack. That is a transitional moment. I transitioned from attacking to defending just like that. But within that 5 seconds, I now need to become the first defender. I need to challenge for that ball. Where this is most important is teaching your kids when they lose possession of the ball, you got to be the first ones there to get it back. Own up to your mistake and fight back and get your ball. That will now, number one, that will end up being far more successful in trying to transition back to the attack, but also it'll show the defense that, hey, I recognize that I have an issue. I'm coming back to help. So your teamwork, your camaraderie, the respect they have for those specific players doing that are going to be so much more purposeful and so much more meaningful to the kids. They recognize those moments. Let's talk about what a transition actually looks like. So here's kind of a timeline. So we have yellow here with the ball. Okay, she's got good possession of the ball. As it starts to develop, the attack or the defender decides, I'm going to step into this challenge. Okay, so this is not a moment of containing. This is a moment where they decided to challenge for the ball. So she challenges for the ball. She successfully wins the ball. And now we transition to defending. And now, all of a sudden, yellow is now in a defensive mindset. So, what started out as a promising attack down the sideline within seconds ended up in a transitional moment. Now, the question is the yellow player, what is she going to do about it? She immediately turns around and tries to recover the ball. So, when we talk about transitional moments and passing and defending and all these different things, what is the best way to teach this? Well, let's dive into why small-sided games matter and how they develop our young players. First, smaller teams mean more involvement for each player, more touches on the ball. In these games, players are constantly making really quick decisions. They need to be calculated and reasonable, or the game will shift in direction fast. This dynamic environment builds confidence, awareness, and sharp really fast decision making skills. Another key benefit is the touches on the ball. With frequent interactions, they can quickly develop reactionary skills and become more confident in game style settings. This is crucial for their growth as they learn to adapt and respond quickly to changes within the game. Remember, mistakes are not setbacks, they're just opportunities for those players to learn. Encourage players with positive and supportive language. When coached correctly, they will start to self correct and enhance their learning opportunities. But in small sided games, kids will learn fast and we'll let them play free. If we let them play free, it's about creating space and exploring and growth. Again, we're not talking about being the PlayStation or the Xbox coach. We do not want to be joystick controllers and coaches. We want them to learn. We want then at that point, they make a mistake. Maybe we approach them and say, hey, Billy, what could we have done better next time? Hey, Reagan, did you happen to see the defender on the outside? Allow them to scan the field and reflect on the decisions that they made, good or bad. And always, always, always talk about why allowing the decision making is going to be successful for them. In other words, say Sarah makes a play. Well, you didn't think it was a great play from the sideline, but it just happened to work out in Sarah's favor. Well, Sarah thinks that she made a great play. It was extremely risky, but she just got lucky. Maybe next time we talk to Sarah and say, hey, Sarah, I know it worked out this time. Great job. But remember, we need to analyze the risks. We need to figure out what is the best option that we have at that point, and we need to try and maintain possession of the ball. Remember, the more times that we give the other team the ball, the more opportunities they will have to score. All right, let's get into the fun stuff. Formations of play. So, why do we do this? Well, I'm going to breeze through a lot of this. It's understanding the space and roles. It's keeping formations simple and flexible and assigning each player to a specific spot, but also teaching concepts and not exact positions all the time, and adapting through the learning of play. So, what do we look for in a 6v6 formation? Well, there's a couple different things. We can do a 2-2-2. We can do or I'm sorry, 2-1-2. We can do a 2-2-1. We can do a 3-1-1. Any variation of these. The idea of you as a coach, you're going to analyze your players and evaluate them on their strengths and weaknesses. And based off the players and their overall ideas, you're going to be able to come up with an approach that works best for you. The 2-2-1 is probably the most common, where your striker or your center forward ends up coming back and kind of playing a midfield role, but also stays high. This allows quick counterattacks, but also doesn't allow the defense to be active in the play. The 3-1-1 is far more defensive. This is great for new teams, but it helps players learn patience and spacing. You can probably imagine you don't score many goals by doing this. The other option you have, that's not really listed here, is a 2-1-2. Two in the back, a midfielder, and two up top. As you can imagine, you're probably scoring a lot of goals, but you're also conceding a lot, and your transitional play is most likely not in your favor. So, how do we teach formations effectively? Well, we need to generate situations that require players to really talk about what each position requires. We want to teach the positions to them and allow them to talk to you and explain and kind of regurgitate some of that information of, okay, this is what a left winger does. This is what a left defender does. If you're striker or center forward, these are your roles or responsibilities. That way, your left defender is not playing right wing and your right wing is not playing keeper. But rotate roles every few games. Allow them to experience certain things. Usually halfway through the U10 season, certainly not in U8, but in U10, we start seeing the kids kind of latch on to certain positions. It might be goalkeeper, it might be a defender, it might be striker. But if you ask all of the kids in an under 8 match, what position do you want to play? I want to play offense. I want to play offense. I want to play offense. You might get the lone wolf that says, I want to play defense. And you say, why? Well, I don't like scoring goals. Well, interesting. Challenge that player. Why don't you like scoring goals? And figure out if they're just scared or they're embarrassed. They feel like they're on a big stage and they rather kind of blend in instead of stand out. Or if they are really a defensive minded person, and that's perfectly fine. But understanding and knowing each player is going to be key for allowing these formations to be taught effectively. So, what do we see on these images? We see a lot of bunch ball. Let's talk about the light blue versus dark blue up front on the upper left. We see blue and a lot of blue, and we see just one dark blue. Well, what are the chances that dark blue pulls this ball back and finds an open player in a passing lane? Really, really good. What are the chances that he's been coached to do that? Probably not so great. Let's look down below. You see purple and light blue. Well, this is a classic game of bumblebee bunch ball. If we taught positions, we would allow the players to spread the field, which would give purple more room to run, but also it would allow options for passing lanes. It would allow faster buildup, and it also would allow less running. Think about that. The more the ball moves, the less the players move. So if the players are constantly saying, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I need a break, well, challenge them to pass more and run less. And then last but not least, we have the bigger image, purple and yellow. You see here that we have 5 yellow players within probably 10 to 12 yards of the ball. Here's the problem is they play 6-on-6. So you have every player on the field except for the keeper within 10, 15 yards of the ball. There's no option for passing, there's no passing lane. And what's going to end up happening is if there's a transition by purple, there's going to be nobody in position to counter that attack. How do we teach all these things, right? We talked about all these different ideas of passing and shooting and dribbling and how to defend with the surfboard versus diving in. And how do we do all these things? Well, technical session planning is critical. We do have several plans kind of already pre-written that we've done or US Soccer has done for us, and we can use a lot of those. But the idea is let's set a topic. Let's talk about only one goal per session. If there's a second one that might tie in, okay, that's fine. But we're going to choose one clear, age appropriate focus and topic. We're going to start with a small sided game that resembles something realistic 3-on-3, 4-on-4. It could be sharks and minnows. Let players explore naturally while you observe and identify common habits and challenges. At this age group, they don't need to be doing their flamingos for 10 seconds to stretch out. They don't need to be doing their butterflies. They don't need to be running laps. They need to be in the game, having fun, and experiencing the game in a real life scenario. So I challenge you as a coach do not do the typical warm up. Allow them to have a fun game. Remember, they've been sitting at school all day. They're probably bored. They're just ready to go. Put some cones out, make a small field, and just let them have at it on a small sided game. Then, after they've kind of broken a sweat, they're already warmed up, ready to go. Let's kind of take that and start with some sort of theme related to your topic and your focus. This could be something about decision making. This could be offensive or defensive techniques. This could be slowing the ball down and changing speed and direction. And then we're going to build on that in a game like scenario 2. Use clear cues like, can you open your body? Look before you pass, and allow players to self discover some of these things. Again, do not be the Xbox coach. And then we're going to take all of these that we've kind of learned in this practice session and we're going to put them together for a final gameplay. This is talking about that play, practice, play mentality. End with another game-like activity that reflects the session theme. Encourage players to apply what they've learned and how they've kind of been throughout that match or that practice. If they're bored, allow them to find a game that's fun for them. Remember, they're always going to have fun if you allow them to dictate some parts of the practice. If you come with a very specific regimen of this is what we're doing, 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 if they're bored right from the start, it's not going to get any better. And then at the end of the practice, sit down for 2 or 3 minutes Digress. Talk about what worked, what didn't. Did they have fun? Did the players stay engaged? Did they improve in that focus area? And adjust your next session accordingly. If you ask the players, especially at U8 and U10 age groups, did you have fun? Yeah. Are you bored? Yeah. That tells you everything you want to know. Because yes, they're saying we had fun. Well, they're probably just looking to please you, but they're also going to admit if they were bored. So allow them to tell you that they had fun. We want ultimately the goal of a coach is we want to be able to blow the whistle and say, all right, guys, that's it. We'll see you next week. Aw, can't we go for 5 more minutes? We want to see those things. If we see those and we hear those, you know, as a coach that you're succeeding and they're absolutely loving what you're doing. So, how about some do's and don'ts of this practice session thing? Well, focus on fun and engagement. Follow the play, practice, play methodology. Keep activities age appropriate and progress skills gradually. Ensure high touches on the ball and participation. Encourage positive coaching and plan for safety. Try and avoid overstructuring or over drilling. They just don't need it and it's not going to work. Don't overload sessions with instructions. Let them dictate and kind of guide their own practice. You don't need to be stopping every 15 or 20 seconds telling them what they're doing wrong. Avoid early specialization at positions. Start around U10, halfway through the season. Do not ignore fun. And do not neglect individual attention. Avoid using too many balls and complicated equipment. It gets to be a lot. There's one thing you can do, and a tip that I have is if you have a super special practice ball. The super special practice ball is something that might be wild. You might buy it at the beginning of the season, or the players vote on whose ball is the coolest looking. The girls always want the pink and purple balls, of course. That could be the team's special ball. Think about when they practice with that ball, they get comfortable with that ball, they love that ball. That is the team mascot in some ways. Now imagine using that game as a game ball. How special that's going to be for them. Little things like that. Let's talk about evaluating our players, and then we're almost done, I promise. So we're going to observe our consistency in the core skills. Track how often players are successful at performing their fundamental techniques, like their dribbling, shooting, and passing. Look for improvement in confidence, control, and decision making rather than perfection. They're young kids. They're not going to perfect it right away. Evaluate game understanding and decision making. Notice whether players recognize when to pass, where to move, when to move, and when and how to defend or support their teammates. Also, continue to preach communication. The more information the players have on the field, the more information they're going to have to make those decisions. If growth is shown, then you're going to see players start to anticipate play and make smarter choices on their own without being the Xbox coach. Monitor their attitude, effort, and enjoyment and reward it. Reward it with the ice cream party, reward it with candy, stickers, whatever. Celebrate the effort, the sportsmanship, and the love for the game. These are the true markers of grassroots coaching. Coaching at ECSC. Of course, we want a player first, ball at the feet philosophy. Skillful, creative, and confident players is what we're aiming for. We want them to love the game, respect the game, and continue to grow the game forward. Remember, you are the representative of your team, you are the mentor for those kids, and you are the reason why ECSC is continually successful. We firmly believe in the power of positivity and fun in coaching. After all, our approach is all about creating a nurturing environment where players feel supported, motivated, and want to continue to develop. ECSC tries to teach the game by infusing energy, creativity, and care into everything that we do. This ensures that kids not only learn the essentials of soccer, but have a great time doing it, laughing and loving the sport, and here at the heart of our community. Our coaching philosophy is pretty simple. Focus on the player, keep the ball at their feet, and watch them flourish into skillful, creative, and confident individuals. We encourage everyone to love, respect, and grow the game, fostering a deeper connection with the sport. Remember, You are ECSC. Let's continue to build this community where teamwork, growth, and passion lead the way, both on and off the field. And with that, we're done. Congratulations. You have now completely completed the video section of the Grassroots ECSC coaching courses. We'll see you on the pitch soon.